Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're embarking on a really unique kind of deep dive. Instead of analyzing, external reports or dense research, we're actually immersing ourselves in a collection of deeply unsettling, true personal accounts.
Right.
These are firsthand stories where the everyday just twists into something truly chilling. Moments where life takes an unexpected, terrifying turn.
Precisely. And these aren't just scary stories. They offer, profound insights into human nature, our vulnerabilities, and that surprisingly fragile line between what feels normal and what becomes utterly terrifying.
Yeah.
We'll be exploring what these shared experiences reveal about our instincts, our awareness, and maybe those darker elements that can emerge when we least expect them.
Our mission today is really to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge, insight from these raw experiences. We want to help you understand the subtle cues and, surprising facts that illuminate the shadows lurking in some truly unexpected places. So let's begin this journey into the unseen. Okay, let's unpack this first one. In our, increasingly connected world, the line between stranger and threat can blur just terrifyingly fast.
It really can.
First up, consider a story from a dating app user whose online match turned into, a real-life nightmare.
Okay.
This woman met a man on Plenty of Fish. He seemed great on paper, right? Good-looking, seemed to have a good job, nice teeth, cared about his health, all the things she was looking for.
Visual checklist.
Exactly. After about a week of chatting, they agreed to meet for a date pretty far from her home. The date itself, it went fine. Nothing alarming during the date.
Yeah.
But immediately after saying goodbye and getting into her car, she noticed something chilling. He was following her on the freeway.
Oh, wow. Right away.
Right away, circling the entire city. He just stayed right behind her car.
What's fascinating here is how quickly that digital connection can spill over into real-world danger, and how easily a seemingly normal interaction can mask something profoundly malicious underneath.
Yeah.
This story really speaks volumes about trusting our gut feelings, doesn't it? Despite the initial good date, her instinct screamed danger the moment she saw him following. That immediate visceral reaction, it's crucial. It's often your first and maybe your best line of defense, even if your rational mind tries to dismiss it later on.
That initial alarm bell is so important. She panicked, obviously, decided to go to a friend's house instead of her own, trying to lose him.
Smart move.
When he didn't follow her off that exit, she actually started to second-guess herself, thought maybe she was overreacting. So she headed home.
Yeah.
Moments after she got inside, her phone buzzed. It was him. A picture of her car, parked right outside her house.
No, that's chilling.
And his message, "I didn't know you lived across the street from me." She knew immediately this was a lie. She'd never seen him before, never met him as a neighbor. Her townhouse was catty-corner to a big apartment complex.
So he was following her. He knew exactly where she lived.
Exactly. She looked outside, and there he was, just standing there, waiting. He even asked to come in.
Wow. The audacity.
She declined, said she was exhausted. The next morning, she woke up to find her car windshield smashed, tires slashed, car keyed all over.
Oh my God.
And then, get this, he shows up again with coffees, acting completely normal, like nothing happened.
That switch, that's terrifying. The ability to just turn it off and on.
The police were called. He acted suspicious when they arrived, trying to hide behind his car. Initially, the police just told her, hope you have insurance.
That's frustrating.
But then, just as they were leaving, something changed. They pulled him over. Apparently, someone recognized him.
Ah, okay.
He was arrested for stalking, breach of probation, assault with a deadly weapon, fraud, and aggravated assault.
Good grief. So this wasn't his first time, clearly.
Clearly not. She was terrified, obviously. Immediately changed her phone number, found a new apartment, and even hired friends to pack and move her stuff just so he couldn't follow the moving truck.
This incident is just a chilling case study in, escalating aggression. His lie about living across the street, that wasn't just an innocent fib, right? It was a deliberate test of her boundaries.
Yeah.
And a terrifying prelude to a physical invasion of her space and property. The key takeaway here is how quickly a digital interaction can shift from just online chat to a really complex pattern of stalking and eventually violence or property damage. Recognizing those early red flags like obsessive behavior, pushing boundaries, inconsistencies in their story, it's vital. Even if, authorities sometimes feel like they can only act once a physical crime occurs.
That's such a crucial point, spotting those early signs before it spirals. Okay, let's move to another chilling account. Digital interaction escalating to an extreme physical threat.
Okay.
This next story started when a man, we'll call him Adam, added the narrator on Snapchat after seeing his dating app profile. Now, the narrator told Adam right away, "Look, I'm straight, I have a girlfriend."
Setting a clear boundary.
Right. But Adam persisted. Messages started normal, but then got increasingly creepy, asking really invasive questions about the narrator's girlfriend.
Like what?
Things like, "Do you guys get intimate a lot? Does she think you're good in bed?" Just really inappropriate.
Wow. Crossing major lines there.
Yeah. The girlfriend eventually confronted Adam herself, which just enraged him. He responded with expletives, demanding the narrator dump her.
So, hostile reaction to being called out.
Totally. Adam got blocked, but later added the narrator again using another account under the name Tyler. Initially seemed super chill,
A fake persona.
Exactly. But the narrator's girlfriend added Tyler, and he flipped out again, confirming it was Adam. So, locked again.
This isn't just digital stalking anymore. It's a chilling illustration of escalating obsession, an invasion of every single personal boundary, and as we'll see, it culminates in attempted murder. This pattern, this escalating fixation, sometimes called erotomania when it's delusionally romantic, it really highlights how quickly digital harassment can turn into real-world threats.
It's terrifying.
For victims, recognizing those early signs, boundary pushing, irrational persistence, these are often precursors to dangerous physical acts. It's critical. And while law enforcement's hands might feel tied until something physical happens,
Right.
documenting every interaction, blocking them, clearly communicating boundaries, it can sometimes help. At the very least, it provides a strong paper trail if legal action becomes necessary later.
That escalation is just...
Correct.
Yeah. So a month later, anonymous love letters from Adam start showing up at the narrator's mailbox, expressing love, inappropriate desires.
Oh no, so he found his address.
He realized two horrifying things. Adam knew his address, and Adam was actually in his town.
That's a terrifying realization.
Yeah.
The digital threat is now physically present.
Then the letters started appearing at the girlfriend's mailbox too. But these were different. Hateful threats, graphic threats of pain, all aimed at making her break up with the narrator.
Pure intimidation and terror tactics.
They contacted the police again, but were told pretty much the same thing. Without a return address, with contacts blocked, there wasn't much they could do.
So frustrating for them, feeling helpless.
Then it gets worse. The narrator was house-sitting for his girlfriend's family. They were away on vacation. Around 1 a.m., the power goes out.
Oh, that's classic horror movie setup.
Isn't it? Then he hears a window smash downstairs.
Oh, God.
He grabs a kitchen knife, runs upstairs, hides in the girlfriend's closet, and calls 911. He can hear the intruder, Adam, enter the girlfriend's room.
He's in the closet. Oh, my God.
In a moment of just sheer terror and, honestly, incredible quick thinking, he slips out, positions himself, and as Adam enters the closet, he stabs him in the shoulder.
Whoa.
Something heavy and metallic falls to the ground. It turned out to be a handgun.
He had a gun. Adam was armed.
Yes. The narrator bolts out of the house, runs outside, and there are 4 squad cars, armed police waiting. They drag Adam out, screaming.
Wow. He actually fought back and survived.
It was later revealed Adam had traveled all the way from Texas to the narrator's state, rented a motel room, was placing those letters' daily security footage, confirmed it, showing him dropping them off early in the morning.
So meticulous. Plan.
His plan was to kill the girlfriend and her family so the narrator would then choose to be with him.
That is horrifyingly delusional.
The narrator just expressed profound gratitude that the family was on vacation. That vacation literally saved their lives. We've seen how deeply disturbing these personal connections can become when they turn obsessive. But sometimes the most chilling threats aren't from a single known aggressor. Sometimes they come from the dark undercurrents of society itself,
Right.
revealing how vulnerable unsuspecting individuals can be, often in moments we least expect. Take the account of a 17-year-old girl. She travels to England to be an au pair,
Okay, a common enough scenario.
but her host family doesn't pick her up at the airport. Instead, she gets a message saying the husband changed his mind, didn't want an au pair after all, and she's being sort of passed along given to a good friend who needs one.
Red flag right there. Huge red flag. Change of plans. Hand over to a stranger.
A complete stranger picks her up, hurrying her into the car. The au pair felt, as she put it, nervous and non-confrontational. Young, in a foreign country.
Understandable but dangerous.
She managed to insist on being dropped off back at the airport. Later, she gets these strange voice memos from the woman who picked her up and 2 other people. Then, the original host mother blocks her parents on social media.
Cutting off communication lines. Another tactic.
She eventually discovered the contract she'd signed was totally fake. The addresses she'd been sent, also fake. And then she learned the city she was in was actually known as a hotspot for human trafficking.
Chilling. These narratives really lay bare hidden dangers. The au pair's experience.
Yeah.
It just highlights the exploitation of innocence, doesn't it? And the insidious nature of human trafficking, often masked by seemingly benign circumstances, like a job offer. A key takeaway here is recognizing those red flags of isolation and control.
Like the unexpected changes.
Exactly. Unexpected changes in plans, being diverted to a new person or location, feeling rushed or coerced, communication with family being cut off. These are really common tactics used by traffickers. You have to trust that feeling when something seems off.
Absolutely. And it just speaks to how quickly a situation can turn sinister, especially when you're in an unfamiliar environment, maybe feeling like you can't make a fuss.
Right.
Now let's pivot to something different but equally unsettling. A childhood memory from 1966. An 8-year-old narrator visits his Uncle Patsy for a Labor Day BBQ.
Okay, sounds normal.
He remembers the smell very vividly, a smoky, slight, charred barbecued meat smell that was actually enticing to him as a kid.
BBQ smell. Makes sense.
Years later, he learned the truth about Uncle Patsy. He was in prison, first-degree murder and kidnapping. He had killed someone over like $700, driven the body to a cabin, shot him, and then tried to burn the body in a campfire for days.
Oh my God, so the smell.
The BBQ smell, he remembered so vividly. It was the smell of a burning human corpse.
That is beyond horrifying. Especially for a child to be exposed to, even unknowingly.
And the most disturbing part, the narrator's father was there during that childhood visit, implying this deeply unsettling complicity, or at least knowledge, in exposing his own child to that horror.
The story of Uncle Patsy is just a horrifying example of how brutality can be normalized, hidden in plain sight, and how profound trauma can be inflicted in childhood without any immediate understanding.
Yeah.
It also speaks to the psychological impact, right? Discovering such dark truths about your own family years later, the foundation of your memories just shatters.
Completely.
One crucial cue to look for, or maybe teach others, is recognizing when situations just feel off. Even if you can't articulate exactly why, that gut feeling, that sense of unease, it's a powerful signal. It's about being aware of those discrepancies, maybe between what you're being told and what your senses or your instincts are actually telling you. Trusting that internal alarm.
That's a critical point. Our gut often knows before our conscious mind catches up. Okay, now let's transition to stories of more direct threats, where cunning and malicious intent are clearly actively at play.
Right. The predator is in focus.
First, the chilling case of the Starbucks triple homicide. This was back in July 1997. 3 young Starbucks employees, Mary Catron Mahoney, Emery Allen Evans, and Aaron David Goodrich, were found, frozen, shot execution style, in the freezer of a Washington, D.C. store.
God, I remember hearing about this case. Horrific.
Initially, no money was missing, which was strange, but Mary, one of the victims, had recently fired another employee for stealing.
A possible motive emerges.
The case got huge national attention. The break came when a woman called the America's Most Wanted hotline. She admitted her boyfriend, a man named Carl D. Cooper, had confessed the murders to her.
Wow. That took incredible courage for her to do.
Absolutely. She bravely agreed to wear a wire. On the recording, Cooper confessed everything. He killed Mary first when she refused to give him the keys to the safe. It had about $10,000 inside. Then he executed the other 2 employees because they were witnesses.
Oh, calculated.
He also admitted, on tape, to murdering a security guard, Sandy Griffin, in a completely separate botched robbery attempt.
What's fascinating in a grim way is the methodical nature of this predator. Carl Cooper's calculated violence. It shows such a clear pattern of intent and exploitation.
Yeah.
This case highlights how a seemingly random, brutal crime can actually have a cold, planned core, often perpetrated by individuals who might have a history of violence or, antisocial behavior. It really underscores the importance of recognizing common tactics of those with malicious intent. They often target vulnerabilities and escalate violence quickly to get what they want.
And it also highlights the importance of community intervention, right? Even from unexpected sources like that brave girlfriend. Consider this next story, which is all about intervention. A narrator in New Jersey sees a van, man and woman inside, driving slowly, approaching young children playing on a dead-end street.
Okay, alarm bells ringing immediately.
The van turns, starts slowly creeping towards the kids, almost pushing them to the edge of the road. The kids actually start yelling, "We don't want your candy!"
Wow. The kids recognize the danger.
The narrator was there with 3 friends described as large, strong men. They saw what was happening and intervened immediately, started yelling at the van.
Good for them, stepping in.
It worked. The van sped away. It didn't even have a license plate. The kids confirmed afterwards, yes, the people in the van had offered them candy. It was a clear, direct attempt at abduction, stopped by bystanders.
The van incident just perfectly illustrates how predators test boundaries. They use these seemingly innocuous pretenses, like offering candy, to lure potential victims. It's a classic grooming tactic. The key takeaway here is the power of community vigilance and just quick intervention. In moments of high stress, training ourselves to identify subtle cues, like a vehicle moving unusually slowly or acting strangely near children, and reacting decisively can be literally life-saving. Don't hesitate. Disrupting a suspicious situation is crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not always about outright abduction attempts either, right? Sometimes it's more about testing vulnerability, like in the Creepy Santa Man story.
Tell me about that one.
Okay, so a 13-year-old girl is home alone. An older man, who she described as looking like a dirty and creepy Santa, comes to her door. He claims he's collecting donations for needy children, but he insists on getting old toys, not money.
Specific and a bit weird. Creates an excuse to linger, maybe see inside.
Exactly. She suddenly realizes the front door is actually unlocked. While she's talking to him, distracting him, she quietly reaches over and locks the deadbolt.
Smart girl. Quick thinking.
She pretends to go look for toys just to get him to leave. As soon as she steps away from the door, he yanks hard on the doorknob.
Oh, wow. So he was trying to get in. The locked door stopped him.
Yes. She hides, terrified. He doesn't leave immediately. He waits outside her house, just staring at the house for 45 minutes.
Staring for 45 minutes, that's deeply unsettling. Pure intimidation.
He only left when her brother finally arrived home. It just clearly shows how predators probe, how they look for vulnerability, and how quick thinking, like locking that door, can absolutely be life-saving.
That girl's quick thinking is just a testament to the power of awareness, isn't it? Predators so frequently use these deceptive pretexts, these fake stories, to gain access or just to test how isolated a potential victim might be.
Yeah.
The insight here, I think, is the importance of teaching children, and really anyone vulnerable, to trust their instincts when someone feels off, regardless of the story they're telling or how they look. Quick, decisive action like locking that door and seeking help immediately can absolutely thwart these attempts.
We've confronted the stark reality of these overt predators, but the impact of unsettling encounters isn't always marked by, immediate physical violence. Sometimes the chilling effects are more psychological.
The mental scars.
Leaving lingering questions, or sometimes just validating those annoying worrywart instincts we all sometimes have. Let's delve into those more subtle yet equally profound impacts now.
Okay.
First, a seemingly minor altercation that turned brutally violent. This was the Starbucks hot coffee attack in Cardiff. A woman cuts in line. A man politely tells her she's queue jumping.
Happens all the time, unfortunately.
Right.
Annoying, but usually minor.
She ignores him. He gently moves her bag aside just enough to take his rightful place in line. She reacts explosively, starts shouting, demands the police be called.
Over moving a bag. Wow.
Yeah.
Extreme reaction.
She gets her coffee, specifically demanding it be made extra hot. And then, as she receives it, she turns and throws the entire cup of scalding, sugary liquid directly in the man's face.
Oh my God. That's horrific. Scalding liquid.
It caused life-changing injuries, terrible scarring, just an absolutely unpredictable, extreme act of violence triggered by a very minor slight.
This incident is just such a stark reminder of extreme, unpredictable human behavior and the severe, disproportionate consequences that can arise from even small provocations. It teaches us that violence isn't always rational, is it?
Not at all.
It's not always proportionate to the trigger. The key insight, maybe, is that while you can be situationally aware, you simply cannot predict every single sudden explosive act of rage like that. Sometimes the only protection is pure luck. It really highlights the fragility of our everyday interactions.
It really does. But thankfully, not all intense confrontations end in horror. There's another story, the manager confrontation, also at a Starbucks.
Vivid contrast time.
The narrator, who was the manager, had set up a little reserved table for someone's romantic date later on. A businessman type comes in, sees the reserve sign, but insists on taking that specific table, even though plenty of others were free.
Ah, the entitled customer.
He starts escalating his voice, getting louder, more demanding. Finally, he demands, "I want to see the manager."
And the narrator is the manager.
Exactly. The narrator rather dramatically reveals, "Well, you're looking at them." The man just leaves in an angry huff.
Okay, so he backed down when confronted with authority.
But here's the surprising part. He later returned, became a regular customer, and would actually greet the narrator by name, totally normally. It was this rare moment where high tension just surprisingly dissolved into something almost mundane.
That is fascinating, especially compared to the coffee incident. It illustrates that human behavior, even aggressive behavior, can sometimes be diffused or resolved in really unexpected ways.
Yeah.
The manager's calm, confident assertion of authority, rather than, say, meeting aggression with aggression, seemed to unexpectedly de-escalate the situation in the long run. It's a good reminder that not every conflict has to end badly. Sometimes direct, confident communication can actually reset a dynamic.
It truly does. And speaking of the psychological impact, the Black Bear or Jersey Devil prank, that's a fascinating case study in fear itself.
The Jersey Devil, okay, I'm intrigued.
The narrator runs a horror review channel, right? And he felt he'd lost his edge, his spooks. So he decides to go camping alone in the New Jersey Pine Barrens to try and get it back.
Setting himself up for fear, basically.
Totally. He's out there alone, hears noises, sees a dark shape moving on what looks like hind legs. He becomes convinced it's the legendary Jersey Devil. You know, the lore-cursed 13th child, hooves, goat's head, bat wings, forked tail.
Oh yeah, classic local legend, primal fear stuff.
He completely freaks out, flees in absolute terror, hearing these ear-splitting guttural screeches behind him, only to have his friends jump out from behind trees yelling, "Happy birthday!"
Yep, it was a prank. A very elaborate, possibly cruel birthday prank.
Extremely elaborate, but while it was just a trick, it really highlights how intensely our fears, especially those rooted in local folklore or the unknown, can be manipulated. Even when the threat isn't technically real, the fear felt absolutely was.
Oh, absolutely. This story is a powerful lesson about the power of suggestion, isn't it? And how our own minds can amplify perceived threats, especially when we're primed by folklore or expectation. The insight is that our internal narratives, our beliefs, they can be just as potent as external stimuli in shaping our experience of fear. It really shows the psychological weight of what we believe is true, even if it turns out to be, just some friends in a costume making noises.
It really shows the power of suggestion in our own minds, but then there are those moments that absolutely validate those annoying worrywart instincts we talked about.
Right, when the fear is justified.
Like the parking lot stalker. A woman leaves her aerial silks class late at night, sees a man dressed all in black just sort of lingering. She gets to her car, locks the door immediately.
Good instinct. Always lock the doors.
She glances down at her phone for just a second, looks up, and sees him pressed right against her car window. Then he steps back, stands there, and slowly lifts his finger like he's pointing or signaling.
Oh, that's incredibly creepy, just pressed against the glass.
She starts her car immediately, and as she does, she feels a distinct pull on the door handle. She's certain he was trying to open her door.
Wow, he was testing the lock.
As soon as the engine started, he just turned and walked away calmly, as if nothing happened. She noted afterwards how casual she'd been about locking her doors before that night, and the sudden, chilling realization of how close she might have come to something terrible. That predator's intent was clear.
That is a classic example of a predator testing boundaries, looking for a crime of opportunity, the unlocked door, the distracted person. The key takeaway here is just the critical importance of situational awareness. Trusting that gut feeling she saw him lingering, felt uneasy, and those small proactive safety measures. Locking car doors immediately, that annoying worrywart instinct. It's not annoying, it's actually a sophisticated internal alarm system. These moments, whether they fully escalate or just leave you shaken like that, they leave indelible marks. They often fundamentally shift how someone approaches their personal safety from then on.
Exactly. And one more along those lines, the cable cutter. A young woman, home alone from college on winter break, watching TV. Suddenly, the screen cuts out. Static.
Cat could be anything, but still unsettling when you're alone.
Then her cat starts acting really strange. Wailing weird, she said, pacing frantically back and forth at the window.
Animals often sense things we don't. Pay attention to the pets.
She feels this fiercely visceral dread wash over her. Just pure gut feeling that something is wrong. Then she hears a side door, one they rarely use, click open, and feels a cold waft of air come into the house.
Oh no. Someone's inside. We're trying to get inside.
She doesn't wait. She bolts upstairs, wakes her parents, tells them someone's in the house. They initially dismiss her, think she's imagining things.
Common reaction, unfortunately. You're just spooked.
But the next morning, the police come. They confirm. The cable wires on the side of the house had been deliberately cut, and there were fresh footprints in the snow right by that side door she heard open.
Wow. So her gut feeling, her cat's reaction, the TV cutting at it was all real. Someone was trying to get in. Cutting the cable might have been to lure her out or just disable communication.
Exactly. That chilling realization that her instinct, dismissed by her parents, was absolutely spot on.
This story just perfectly validates the power of intuition, doesn't it? And the importance of listening to that fiercely visceral dread. It demonstrates that seemingly minor disturbances like a TV cutting out or weird animal behavior can be deliberate actions by someone with bad intentions. They might be trying to assess vulnerability, maybe draw you outside, maybe disable alarms or phones before making a move. The takeaway is clear. Your instincts, sometimes combined with unusual animal behavior, can be incredibly powerful indicators of danger. They should never, ever be dismissed lightly.
Let's turn now to a deeply unsettling phenomenon. People who simply vanish, often without a trace, and particularly how this seems to affect those on the margins of society.
The disappearances that leave so many unanswered questions.
The story of Hannah Up is particularly haunting. Hannah was a 23-year-old teacher in New York City. In September 2008, she vanished, just disappeared. 10 days later, she was spotted using her Apple ID. A friend actually approached her, but Hannah denied being herself, said she wasn't Hannah Up.
Or denied her own identity.
Yeah. She was later found in the Hudson River, alive but severely dehydrated with absolutely no memory of the past few weeks.
Found in a river? That's terrifying. What happened?
She was diagnosed with something called dissociative fugue. It's a rare condition involving a loss of memory, specifically regarding one's identity, and leads to sudden, unplanned travel away from home. It's typically linked to severe trauma, but in Hannah's case, there was no obvious trigger they could find.
Wow, so her mind essentially just checked out from her own life.
She described the experience herself as going from like a run to like being in the ambulance, just gaps in time.
Yeah.
And afterwards, she felt profound shame and guilt about it.
These are profoundly disturbing narratives, mainly because they lack closure, don't they? Anna's story with this medical mystery and the repeated disappearances, it really forces us to consider the limits of our understanding of the human mind. What could possibly compel someone to vanish like that, seemingly without a trace, even from themselves?
Right.
Dissociative fugue, while rare, involves exactly that. Sudden, unplanned travel, confusion about identity, sometimes even assuming a new one. The tragedy here is how incredibly difficult it is for both the person experiencing it and their loved ones to cope with something so unpredictable and elusive.
It truly makes you wonder about the unseen forces, internal or external, that could be at play. Hannah actually established a code word system with her roommates, friendly vegetarian who likes to try new dishes, a chilling attempt to kind of anchor herself or let others know if she wasn't herself.
A safety mechanism against her own mind. That's heartbreaking.
She experienced another fugue state in Maryland in 2013. It lasted 2 days. It ended when she suddenly found herself standing in a creek with no idea how she got there.
Back in water again.
She started noticing trends. The fugues often began around the start of the school year. They always involved wandering. And they seemed to end with her near or in water.
Trying to find patterns in the chaos.
Based on this, hoping to maybe mitigate future episodes, she made a big life change. In 2014, she moved to the U.S. Virgin Islands, specifically St. Thomas, because of the abundant water. Maybe being near it constantly would help.
A logical, if desperate, attempt to manage it.
But tragically, on September 14, 2017, at age 32, Hannah disappeared again. This was just before a major hurricane was due to hit the islands.
Oh no. Right before a hurricane.
Her car was found near a beach bar. Inside were her passport, her purse, money, phone. Her clothes were found neatly folded on the beach nearby.
Everything left behind.
Yeah.
Like she just walked away.
Exactly. Despite extensive searches, absolutely no trace of her has ever been found. Logic might suggest drowning, especially with the impending hurricane, but her body should have floated. The currents there are well understood and predictable.
Right. Things usually wash ashore.
Her mother even said, I don't think she went out into the water. Everything that goes out comes back this way. She'd have washed up quickly. So the question just hangs there. Who took Hannah up? Or maybe even more chillingly, given her history, what took Hannah up? Was it the fugue state again, leading her somewhere dangerous? Or something else entirely?
These stories also really highlight a societal blind spot, don't they? Steve's disappearance, for instance, shines a light on the disproportionately high rate of missing homeless individuals. These cases often receive little investigation, little public outcry. They leave families or just concerned individuals like the narrator in this story haunted by the what-ifs. It really compels us to ask, what responsibility do we as a society have to investigate these disappearances, to care for the disappeared, especially those who are marginalized or whose circumstances just defy easy explanation?
That's a heavy question.
The tragic reality is that without significant public pressure or clear evidence, so many of these cases remain tragically unresolved. Just cold cases, leaving wounds that never heal.
It's a powerful question that definitely hangs in the air. And it connects directly to this next story, the story of Steve. Steve was a homeless man, described as kind, actively looking for work. He regularly used a Starbucks for Wi-Fi, charging his phone, a common lifeline.
Right, trying to improve his situation.
He suddenly disappeared after going to a job interview. The narrator, just a regular customer at that Starbucks who'd gotten to know Steve a bit and was concerned, decided to investigate himself.
Took it up on himself.
He went to the local homeless camp, Redwood Junction. An older vet there told him, Steve hadn't been around, and he'd actually left all his belongings behind.
Leaving belongings is usually a bad sign.
The vet suggested asking a young woman known as Mouse. Apparently, Steve used to bring her food sometimes. The narrator found Mouse. She was clearly high, seemed terrified, and when asked about Steve, she just said he went to the cemetery, and then added cryptically, it took him.
It took him. What does that even mean? Chilling.
The historic Union Cemetery is literally right across the street from the car wash where Steve had his last known appointment, that job interview. Later, the narrator was walking through that cemetery and found something disturbing. A plastic bag containing what looked like organ meat, just left behind a tombstone.
Organ meat. What on earth? That's deeply disturbing. Did he tell the police?
He did, but they apparently dismissed it, just didn't seem interested. The story notes that the rate of homeless people going missing in that specific area, Redwood City, is considerably higher than surrounding areas, and these cases are often dismissed by authorities, sometimes even by the public.
That's the societal blind spot you mentioned. Out of sight, out of mind.
The narrator is left wondering, was it fentanyl? Is there a serial killer targeting the vulnerable, or is it, as he puts it, something less explainable? He just ends by praying that whatever it is can be identified and stopped.
That uncertainty, that fear of an unknown it taking people, it's terrifying. Especially when it feels like no one is looking.
So today's deep dive into these deeply personal, often horrifying accounts, it's really laid bare the fragility of our perceived safety, hasn't it?
It really had.
And the power of that sharp instinct for self-preservation, and just the sheer unpredictability of human nature, both good and bad. These stories, though definitely terrifying, are such powerful reminders to just pay attention. Pay attention to the world around us and to our own gut feeling.
Indeed. And understanding these real-world events, however disturbing they might be, it genuinely enhances our own awareness and our critical thinking. It's about being informed, not just, living in fear, but cultivating vigilance and empathy for ourselves and definitely for others who might be vulnerable.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? As you go about your day, maybe consider the lingering questions these stories raise. How much of our daily safety really relies on our own vigilance and quick reactions versus just pure luck?
It's a sobering thought.
And what more can we do, individually and maybe collectively to cultivate greater awareness, to potentially protect ourselves and protect others from the kind of unexpected horrors these deep dives continue to unveil?
Important questions to reflect on.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. If you found this discussion insightful or maybe just thought-provoking, please do consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel, Horror Docs. We explore a wide range of these kinds of topics.
Your engagement really helps us continue these conversations.
We appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you next time.